So wonderful members, welcome back. Our guest who spoke about is Kenyatta Oloo, OKAKA, and we have been able to inform you that he has uh, an undergraduate degree from Nairobi University with honors, and then he went on to pursue masters in mechanical engineering in Leeds Leeds University, and he was able to come back and worked in many other areas. He has worked in other professional areas, and he has been able to pursue both practical and academic work. So, welcome back, engineer. I will hand over to Diana to take us through.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Ndolo. So, Engineer OKAKA, welcome back, and this is the time for anyone who has a question to ask Engineer OKAKA. So, before anyone else asks, Wetonga, I want to give you a chance because I know you're a very active member who never lacks questions. But I want to ask about inclusivity in the institution and also in the profession, especially as an academician. Most likely we'll see like most buildings are not accessible for persons with disabilities, or even the curriculum sometimes doesn't favor them. How will we ensure that our profession is inclusive in terms of bringing persons with disabilities in, because they are there that are interested in engineering? There are some who have reached out to me and told me, yeah, I'm just done with high school, but I want to, I've been called in such a so-and-so university, but even their labs themselves I cannot access because I have a physical disability or something of the sort. Or if it's a hearing one, there is no, what do you call them? Call them interpreters, but you get those, I've forgotten their name. Such, how do we bring in inclusivity in the profession?
Thank you very much. It is one of my items of agenda and pledges, but it goes just beyond we call them disability. Physical disability is easy to deal with because you just need to design, construct, and make available physical facilities which will ease their travel and also their movement within the premises. Comfortable to the mighty engineer. And the basis of engineering is not discriminative. Whether you are a Muslim, a Christian, and God forgives even those who are heathens, so long as you are a mechanical engineer and you say that stress over area is, force over area is equal to stress, whether you are a Chinese, you agree. Whether you are a Muslim, you agree. Through engineering drawing, for example, there is no inclusivity. Whether you are a woman, a man, or anything, you see Chinese nodding their heads because everything is inclusive. And the inclusivity means that belonging to the class of engineering, belonging to the club of engineering. Inclusivity is very, 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 very important. And even if these people don't appreciate what we are making, they are consuming it and maintaining it and facilitating its well-being is not very easy. And one of my items of agenda is that for inclusivity, including everybody on the basis of engineering principles, on the basis of engineering ethics, only and only. Is that an engineer is that who creates, develops, builds, maintains the material world, sustains the material world. And this one is inclusive of everything, inclusive of those who are disabled, those who are women, those of different religions, and that kind of thing. And I agree with you. I don't think a lot has been done in that area, particularly to look at those who are doing engineering but are not mentally all right, those who are doing engineering but have got some mental capacity problems, but those with physical capacity problems are easier to handle. But it's an important point because they're a part of our society. Therefore, in the interest of social justice and human dignity, I would set up a committee to advise me in consultation with what is happening elsewhere in the world related to engineering.
Right.
Thank you.
So it's a question. Okay, Gitonga, please go ahead. Gitonga, just unmute your mic and then start talking.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Engineer OKAKA. He is always talking about meeting, sending a meeting. And that is what I think generally is referred to as stakeholders management. Is quite focused on that. Thank you very much. Back to my question. I have two questions. One is some of the issues that engineer is saying going to address are historical issues. And I'm wondering, him being an eminent engineer in this country, what he has done for all that time, and whether he has forwarded those issues maybe to the past council and his friends who have been probably his classmates who have been leading the EBK, and because the issues has been there for quite some time. How has he been proactively, maybe from an individual point of view, try to solve the issues to do with GE transition, because it didn't happen yesterday? The second question is, why president now? Why not 2018? Why not 2016? Why not 2014? Why 2020? Thank you.
It's a question of timing, isn't it? I was asked a question, I'm old and I ignored some of the things. Well, men have their failures and men have their roles. But if I go back, IEK, Institution of Engineers of Kenya, is actually not an arm of government. So the job is mainly advisory. During my stay there, as a civil servant, not as a member of the council, in the training committee, we made recommendations. For example, to make mass transition moves, or what do you call them? Crash programs for transition. We made this the council. The council made other decisions maybe, but I don't want to blame them because there was the funding. The funding had a problem. The capacity of the government maybe to do some of those things was not considered a priority. Mr. Gitonga, let me tell you something. When I was director of technical training, I think the budget for the whole department was it maybe 10 million shillings or something like that? Okay. But right now, look at it. It is maybe 100 times more than that. The priorities change. The priorities at that time, the government priorities did not actually favor the accelerated growth. When we are doing budgeting, for example, you go and you find that number one, primary schools. And of course, we needed primary school people. Number two, maybe health. And we need, of course, make the health of our people strong. But then if you come to technical education and technical skills, we are not being listened to very much. That's why I'm coming back now as a man who has been in the system and as an old man with maybe white hair that people listen to better. It is for different. And I know it didn't happen at that time. I don't blame anybody. But if it didn't happen at that time, must it continue that way? God's time is the best time, isn't it? Should we now just look back and say that it didn't happen so that we don't tackle it? Should it just now, for example, there are many things I'm tackling which were not attacked, easy to handle at that time. For example, the internship programs, isn't it? Internship programs which we are handling now. For example, the sharing of facilities of institutions. When we argue with EBA that we don't have a computer-driven lathe, but it is at JKU CAT, where it's what? It's being used, utilization ratios may be 1%, and they are all government institutions. Allow me to take these boys and consider them from accreditation, because actually they'll have access to the skills at Jomo Kenyatta. They verify that one, and they give us accreditation that they monitor it. You see, that one was not possible some time back. So I agree with you. There are many things which we are unable to do at that time, but we are now able to do it because we are more enlightened. We have got more pressures, and we are more understanding. And maybe people listen to some of us because maybe we are old and they trust us. At that time, we were unable to do it. But we also did some other things like 844, like building so many other things which were relevant and in the focus of government policy at that time. I don't know if I've answered Mr. Gitonga. But the most important thing, it didn't happen yesterday and we're doing it now. I don't know, but I would look at it like this. It didn't happen yesterday, I'm doing it now. I'm in a position to do it. I'm in a position to influence it. Let it happen, rather than leaving it forever because I didn't do it yesterday. I don't know that I would like to engage with Mr. Gitonga.
The question is well answered. Thank you very much, engineer. And continue with advocating for stakeholders management, stakeholders and engagement. Sorry.
Thank you very, very much. Because unless we have stakeholders engagement, you are training curriculum development is based on many things. Some of them is just for enjoyment. Like a long time ago, for you to become a clever man, you have to speak Greek, which you'll never speak anyway, or Latin, which will never give you employment now. But you see, if you're producing an engineer who is going to work in a factory, the man whose factory is going to work in must be able to recognize the skills which we are giving him and participate actually in determining the quality of the person is going to have, isn't it? That one was not quite true, but it is now agreed upon. And that is why these stakeholders, sometimes call them shareholders, are very, very important, very, very important. Thank you very much. But there were things which were delayed, but the time is now. We want to do them now. And we have done them at Kenyatta University. We are doing them at Machakos University because the atmosphere is different. Our advice is more listened to, and we are making good progress. Maybe to catch up with the time we lost during the time that we were unable to do it.
Yeah, question?
Yes.
So anyone else with a question needs time to ask. Lena, you have a question. I can see your mic is on. Engineer Eric?
Can I say something?
Yeah, you please go ahead.
I'm surprised they're not talking about the plight of engineers. In my manifesto, I said that we should have something called non-practicing allowance. An ordinary engineer, an A student who has gone through that difficult course goes to Ministry of Works like my colleague here sitting next to me. Maybe earns 80,000 shillings or 70,000 shillings and is in charge of a project. Now, the consulting engineer out there who is on practice comes and earns an average of 300,000 or something. Now, what will happen? By the laws of economic equilibrium, they'll run away to industry and we shall be in a situation that we are in the universities. And so I'm proposing that, and I'll take this one very seriously, just like doctors have it, like, I don't know whether lawyers have, but doctors have it, that we must sit down with government and work out what we call non-practicing hours. I think actually to pay justice to the economic equilibrium. It is not a bad thing, economic equilibrium of the engineers, and this is very good for engineers. That is number one. And number two, what about a scheme of service for all engineers? Scheme of service for all engineers based on their productivity in society, based on the dignity we give to the course that they have done, and based on the fact that they are the fulcrum, they are the what shall I say, the pivot of economic activity for our survival. They are actually the lowest common factor of life in the world. Those two I'll do. Number three, I'll have a problem. Up to now, I have a problem. Engineers should be in very many state corporations by law. Look at agriculture. Agriculture is not just opening the earth using a rhino horn and putting the seed therein and hoping that rain will come from bounteous nature and the damn thing will grow, isn't it? It may require irrigation. It may require, I think, those things you see in Rift Valley, who are tilling land. It will require fertilizer, which is made from an engineer's factory. And after that one, it will need, I think, a post-harvest technology to extend the life of that food for generations to come or food security purposes. For example, in Canada, the strategic food plan is about not less than 10 years. That is why they have got mountains of butter and lakes of wines. And these cannot live there alone without the engineering. And so really the engineer has got a very, very heavy input into agriculture. And that is why, for example, Agricultural Finance Corporation, if it has got a parastatal, I would like an engineer to be there. In the National Produce and Cereals Board, I would like an engineer to be there. The same goes for medicine. If you look at medicine, that thing, MRI, where people live in to see what their bodies look like. If you go to an intensive care unit, you will never see any medicine there. A doctor uses a thermometer, a stethoscope, isn't it? You can say many things, which he doesn't know actually how they work, isn't it? But who has done it? Somebody called biomedical engineer, isn't it? And so really, without an engineering input, technological input, a medical doctor would be reduced to a witch doctor, just using in Kikuyu what you call mbugus, or in Luo what you call gagi to predict what is happening. Technology has such a big part to play in that one. And that is reflected, in fact, by the fact that countries which are very, very technologically developed have got better doctors, better treatment facilities than those who don't have, isn't it? I would also like an engineer to be a member of Kenya Medical and Dentist Board because he has got a major input. The same for tourism. You can argue for anything. And this will expose engineers. This will give their rightful share, give them their rightful share in society. This will give the visibility and the motivation that they require and what they need, they honestly need. Somebody has not asked about that question, but it is something which I'll fight tooth and nail to see it happens. And in fact, they'll understand. The agricultural example I've given you, anybody can understand the content of engineering in it. Medicine, anybody can understand the content of engineering in it. And if we shall enlisted all those and quantified them, we shall have to lobby through relevant government offices. If it may be even parliament, there are people like us, they know it, some of them are even engineers, so that we have a balanced society where, and to those who contribute most, more prominence is given, and they are motivated, and that one makes the economy move faster and faster and faster.
Very clear points, very good points. And I remember something you said yesterday when we were having a conversation with you. You also said it on TV, that a doctor without an engineer is a witch doctor.
Engineering skill.
And yeah, come to think of it, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So Abdi, you can ask your question.
Good evening, Engineer OKAKA.
Good evening.
My question is, now that you have all these good ideas, in case you don't make it to be the president, are you willing to come down and apply for you to serve in committees so that we can build this institution together? And so that we don't lose those good ideas that you have. And we can also have you to fight for our rights there.
Well, the answer is yes. And that I've done all along. I've done that one all along. As I told you in my CV, I think I've got a quantified. Shall I say it's quantifiable or quantified? Proven, relevant experience in the management and administration or public services or public sector related to engineering. Now, when I was at Polytechnic, I was a member of the National Industrial Training Council. It was provided for by law. I was a member of Kenya Institute of Education at that time. I was a member of so many other institutions which the system, through lobbying, had put into law that a person of that qualification would be useful for the country in that kind of situation. The same applies now. But in IEK, we are not, we don't have a connecting rod directly with what? With government functions which are active. Unless you are identified and put there on a personal basis. If I'm put there, I'll do it. But if I become president, I'll form a committee myself, a technical committee. Because we have got so many engineers in the country. The figures were being doubted today, but it is being confirmed now. I think we have got nearly 2,000 registered engineers. The list, they are not exactly the same as corporate engineers, because I think so, and they are not all of them engaged, and all of them are very clever people. They would be willing to form, to participate in national interest, I think, in various committees. If I become, I will do that. And if I don't become president, I'm appointed part of that one, I'll participate. I'll participate in doing that one. Right now, I'm not the dean. I was chairman for 5 years. I'm not the chairman. But you see, I'm still actually working with the chairman, Dr. Mwankera, and the dean in this question of mentorship, in the promotion of the engineering religion, so to speak. In promotion of engineering religion, I would like to serve.
Thank you so much, Engineer. I just want to wish you all the best.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, question? Anyone with a question? Engineer Mutuku? Before anyone else comes up with a question, Engineer, is there a part of your manifesto that you have not probably stated so far in this conversation that you'd want to talk about?
Oh dear, I think you have pushed me to talk about most of it. Because
yeah, you can speak about the points you have not spoken about so far.
There is something I've not talked about. We have got a scales of payments, isn't it? The rate at which engineers should be paid, the scale of payments. skillful payments of engineers. Through my documents and through much partial participation, a document was produced in 2013 under the auspices of EBK. But it has not been implemented. Maybe it is out of date now, I don't know, maybe it needs revision, but it's not been implemented. And so when an engineer is, for example, carrying out a project, we wouldn't know the refundable money which he spends on his own and at what rate. We didn't know that how much would he earn per day. That is very, very important. That's very, very important, I think. And I'll push for it to be implemented, passed and implemented, because it will weed out the quacks, which spoil the names of engineers. And it will also give the good engineers rightful access to good money, which they deserve by the virtue of their training and also by the virtue of the effort they put in to make bad good or to continue making good. I think that is the only thing I have not talked about. Well, I was also thinking welfare of engineers. This may be outside my thing, but I think I would engineering circle for all engineers. Then the third one, the last one, maybe engineering circle. I'm worried about the CPD, the way we are running CPD now. It's expensive for engineers. It's very, very expensive for engineers. And we shall sit with my brother, whom I told you is a very seasoned, level-headed, solid professional, Engineer Mwongera, to see how we can, I think, ease the pressure on the financial component of the CDF, of the CPD, not CDF, CPD, continuous professional development requirements, because they seem to cost a lot of money for them to earn points so that they earn their certificates, practicing certificates every year. I think that one, but it's something which we can discuss. I've got a lot of confidence in Engineer Mwongera myself. Yes. Unless there is something else, I think those are the things which I look at. And in my summary, for example, I would say, number one, I think the transition rate worries me. And then number two, the welfare of engineers in terms of their scheme of service, non-practicing allowance, very important, financial gain. And number four, visibility and allowing them to operate in areas where they can do best, like in the boards which are basically engineering. Those are things which I'll fight for. But I'll cut down on international travels, like going to Melbourne, spending 10 million shillings at the expense of uplifting the girl child from religious studies, geography and history, to physics, chemistry, and thereafter to mechanical engineering. And also not hold presidents' dances or balls or dinners at Intercontinental. I'll listen and obey the current constitutional dispensation. I'll rotate. I'll go to Mombasa. I'll go to Narok. It doesn't have to be very big. But the thing is that they must feel the engineering spirit. Thank you very much.
So, engineer, you are oozing wisdom, which is very admirable. So I am really concerned about eminent engineers. Most of them go back to farming, or they just go back to their homesteads or go on holidays and decide, boom, I've retired and that's my life. My life is over with engineering. What would you advise about bringing them back to mentor the young generation? Because I mean, they have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge.
I'm in the same age. Maybe somebody told me yesterday, you are too old and what are you doing here? Somebody told me that way. But the point we are making is critical. Their age is not an issue. The experiences are invaluable, but we are wasting them.
That's true.
In our societies, it's very interesting. When we are worrying about competency-based curriculum, I spoke to Dr. Oloo, who got PhD in curriculum development, who became an assistant minister, who was director of KIE, who became director of basic education. Nobody talked to him about it. Okay? Nobody talked to him about it. We as a nation or as Africans, we are actually not very good in utilizing the real, what shall I say, the real human resource that we have. You see, once you have retired from an office and you go back there, people will look at you, what is he coming back to do, isn't it? There is some discontinuity. That is why I said that I'll call the old engineers and meet with them alone. Then call the young engineers, meet with them alone, and they give me a proposal. Then I get a committee of young engineers selected by the young engineers and then by the old engineers to see the meeting point so that we play a positive role for mentorship of the graduate engineers to become engineers, and also, I think, promotion, development of the engineering profession. I'll form that committee. And this, I think in terms of jobs, there are jobs which they can do better than us, the younger people. And maybe there are jobs which the younger people can do better than them, but their wisdom and the energy of the young people will have to be utilized towards the common goal. And that is what is happening in countries like Japan. When we went to Japan with Professor Gidinji, I think in 1988, Professor Gidinji was the chairman of Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology at that time. I was representing the PS, I was director of technical training. Professor Nakagawa was 77 years. And he was the chairman of mechanical engineering department of Kyoto University. And there were, of course, younger people, and there were also older people. This makes it important. It's important. I'll not actually lose. Maybe I'm saying this because I'm old, I'm also going to be lost. But in my heart of hearts, I think that we cannot lose them. In any case, engineering, I went to Leeds the other day where I got my degree, my master's degree. I found Professor Duncan Dawson, who taught me engineering tribology. And I got also Professor Dudley, who was, I think the name now is going away, who was a supervisor of Professor Gidinji. Though they had retired from university, Professor Duncan Dawson is 86. He still had an office in the university. And Professor Bradley still had an office. We went for lunch together. And he told me something, OKAKA, now you see, in your country, do medicine men retire? Engineering is a profession similar to medicine men. Do they retire at all? How old they are does not matter. But there is some wisdom which they have, which the other people don't have, and which they keep on handing over to the young group. And that is why actually they are developed. You see, for example, Kissinger, on behalf of Trump, going to talk to the president of China, when he's an old man, isn't it? There is something in him which is vital for the country. And this is what we are losing. I'll not lose them. I'll actually encourage integration and the use of them actually to help us. And at the same time, let them also have human dignity.
All right. Thank you, engineer. So at this point, I would request you to do your parting shot in like 3 minutes. Your parting shot and your pitch on why we should vote for you. Why Engineer OKAKA? Yeah, the floor is yours, engineer.
Why Engineer OKAKA? It is good to take somebody who has done something which has been seen. My track record. I can say that I've had quantifiable, proven, relevant, credible experience in the area of engineering, management of engineering, hygienically without, you have not seen me on papers on anything. And this time, IEK requires such a character so that I can liaise with various relevant government authorities from my previous experience to make things happen, because actually IEK is not an executive body with respect to government departments, but will require liaison based on technical know-how, if I may use that word, and technical know-how, isn't it, of the system and of the people. And one thing which I'll do, which are very difficult to do, succession plan. It worries me. If you look back, the succession plan and the culture of cohesion, isn't it? And systematic development, rather than centering it on a person, and when that person goes, things don't work. We have a problem there. And that is why, you see, my students, I don't know, I'm very close to them, you might have noticed, but we must mentor them. And if I get to power to become president, I'll work with both young people and old people. I'll maybe emphasize more on the old people. That is why I'll meet the old people and then the young engineers, and then see the meeting point for the progress of this very noble profession. I'll take care of their welfare, their security, their professional satisfaction, their visibility, their image in a sustainable manner. That's what I'll fight. And that is why I would like you to elect OKAKA.
All right. Thank you, Engineer OKAKA, for your time. A very insightful conversation we have had this evening. Thank you for making time for us. Thank you to all the members who joined us this evening. All other questions that you may have, you can direct them directly to Engineer OKAKA. We'll be uploading this video on YouTube for you to watch and get more insights also in case something missed you. So we have been your hosts, Engineer Anthony Ndolo and I, Diana Waidanji, and we wish you the very best in the upcoming elections. That is less than 48 hours from now. So over to you, Engineer Ndolo.
Thank you, Engineer OKAKA. I hope to see you as the president of IEK and also work with you more as we have done before. Otherwise, I wish you all the best in your in the elections and also health-wise.
It's ready for departure. Passengers are requested to proceed. All right, thank you. He says he wishes you all the best, and he hopes to see you as the president of the IEK. Yeah. So yeah, everyone have a good night. Yes?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Engineer, and all the best. Goodbye, everyone, and have a good night. And ensure that you vote on Monday and vote for a candidate that is visionary.
And a candidate that is all-inclusive, young at heart, and also wisdom. I pray, Engineer, I wish you all the best. I wish you health, and I wish you many more young boys and girls who you have mentored to continue following your steps.
Thank you very much.
Otherwise, thank you for accepting our webinar request, and also thank you for sparing some time with us. Everybody, goodbye, good night.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Okay.